Mr. Mike DeFrenza as a guest today. Good friend of mine I've known. I don't know, Mike. What do you think? 6 years? 5 years?
I think it's been about 6 years. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Great. I just, we're going to get into this, and I know part of your story. I don't know all of your story. So I'm really looking forward to hear, what you're going to share with not just me, but the audience out there, and we're going to be able to teach some people some lessons, hopefully.
Cool.
So,
looking forward to it.
Let's talk to the folks. I know, one, you're an entrepreneur, right? You don't trade time for money. You trade value for money. But let's start even further back. Let's talk to the people about as far back as you can remember with money as a child. What can you remember about money?
Well, I grew up in the suburb of Chicago. My father's originally from a rural part of Italy. Was born in the late 30s, and his family always, kind of just tried to make ends meet. His father was a farmer. You hear the stories about him having to walk to school barefoot carrying his shoes because he didn't want to wear out the soles. And so when he came to the United States, he came here because he said, this is the land of opportunity. And I think a lot of us that are born here maybe sometimes take that for granted, because we might not have ever experienced anything other than that. But he was able to come here and work really hard, and saved as much money as he could until he was able to start his own business. And he thought, that was the American dream and the way to financial freedom. And his goals were just to start a family and provide a really good quality of life, and then have a legacy, something that he could pass on to his kids. And my mom was born here in America. And, I can completely understand where my father's coming from as a father myself, wanting to provide a better life for my kids and, create a legacy, not just financially, but educationally as well, so that we can, teach our children, some of these principles of financial literacy that they can carry with them throughout their lifetime. And that's why it's always been really important for me to educate myself, because growing up in that family, yes, my father knew how to work really, really hard, but he traded all that time as when we were children for money. And sadly, he was able to make ends meet, but he never really got to experience that financial freedom that he was always looking for. And, when I became an adult, a young adult, he always said to me, he goes, Mikey, don't make the same mistakes I did. And what he meant by that was, he missed out on a tremendous amount of our childhood. But the intention was, good things, of course, right? To have a better life for us. And then obviously to have something, that he could potentially pass on. So, I was raised with the mindset of, kind of scarcity where, typical things, money doesn't grow on trees. My family never had a ton of expendable income, so I remember as a kid, wanting certain things that maybe other friends had or were given. But that inspired me and it motivated me. And it motivated me to take a lot of the foundational lessons, of hard work that my father instilled upon me. But also, though, start looking at different ways where I could have a different outcome, because I knew someday when I had a family, I didn't want to have the same kind of lifestyle that my father had in relationship that my father had with his kids.
So essentially, and again, we all watch our parents do what they do for a living. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where we all really get, through the conversations I'm having, there's a very good commonality thing going on here, right? We subconsciously, we watch our parents, what they do. So you watched your dad be a hardworking individual mm-hmm. and take care of the family. Yeah. Which is what all parents, want to do, but never really got the chance to get really ahead mm-hmm. and enjoy some great things that life has to offer. So share with us, what do you think is kind of your first lesson with money? Did your dad teach you? Did somebody else teach you your lessons with money? Because mm-hmm. if there wasn't a lot of money when you were young, right? Your parents were just, just getting by and, making sure there's food on the table, some roof over your head, that kind of thing. But at what age did you kind of figure money was something that you could use besides just trading time for it?
Well, I've heard when I was growing up, money doesn't buy happiness, right? But what I also learned is, money can buy you some freedom, and it can buy you some peace of mind, which I think are, obviously very critical, like in life. So, when I was younger, regarding, the way I looked at money, I was always looking for opportunities as a young kid to earn money or to make money, because I didn't have the opportunity to get certain things that I wanted. If I wanted a BMX bike, I had to earn it. If I wanted a video game system, which, I had to earn it. And I'm really glad that I had to be in that position at the time. I can still recall that I didn't, I wish I had it like other kids. But it really taught me to value things, because I realized how much time I had to put in to get something. So, that's something that I think as generations go on now, they may not have that same perspective.
So did you actually have, again, any money lessons per se from mom or dad? Did they sit you down and talk about money, how to use money? Don't squander money. Obviously, they worked. You learned a work ethic. That's clear. I'm just trying to get to, there's going to be people out there that are maybe in their early 20s, or maybe they're in their mid 20s, have kids, not really sure how to start to mold them, because I know you do have kids.
Yeah.
So my follow-up question is going to be, with your kids, are you doing anything specific, teaching them about money?
Absolutely. Because when I was a kid, my parents, because of their lack of financial literacy, they didn't have retirement accounts. They didn't have 401ks. They didn't have IRAs. They didn't have, they never set a budget. They just, I would imagine if they had someone, or they took the time to educate themselves on these different things, that they probably would have made decisions differently. When it comes to my kids, I'm a big believer in educating them on working smarter, not harder. And I know, everyone who's listening has probably heard that before. I also heard a quote once where I think it was some billionaire who said, the harder I work, the luckier I get. And so there is an element of hard work that has to be dedicated or put in, but we all have the same amount of time in a week and a month and a year. And I think it's how we decide to utilize that time, like my son, who's 12 years old, instead of, playing video games with his buddies, he's setting up an eBay store where he is literally asking us, do you guys want this still? If not, like, he'll put it online. He'll knock on the neighbors' doors and say, hey guys, is there anything you want to sell? And how much do you want for it? And then he gets to keep the difference on it. And he's already asking questions about, stocks and stocks that pay dividends. And these are things that are very interesting to him, so the money lessons I'm teaching them is, number one, to hopefully become entrepreneurs, because you can work for somebody your whole life. And I know people that make multiple 6-figure incomes that are W-2 employees, and they still never get to experience what a lot of people would consider financial freedom. They may live comfortably, but they never get to experience that financial freedom, or that time freedom for that matter. So, I'd like to think my son, who's 12, and my daughter, who's 14, are growing up with the intention of knowing that whatever field they decide to get into, that they can start a business. And I've also been a huge believer, and I've seen this in my personal life, that it doesn't matter what industry you get into. I think a lot of people associate wealth with, a financial sector, or, a technology sector. I've seen family members who have very little education, in terms of, formal education, I guess, that have gone on to build multi-million-dollar companies, in areas that you probably would never imagine. So I'm a big believer that no matter what industry you choose, there's always going to be opportunities to establish, grow, scale a business that can create that time and financial freedom.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. If you want to watch the whole podcast episode, then go ahead and click right here. Okay? Do me a favor. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. And if you want to hit the notification bell, you'll get notified every time we release a new video out for you, whether it's the clip or the whole podcast. So hope you get a lot of value, and I'll see you guys on the next one.